transfix. Bring it. Letting brave names echo. Here comes the catch. Isolation chamber deployed. Preparing for dust up. Blade bear. Gotcha. Quietly now. These are about to get cleanup sequence initiated. Ultimatum protocol. Everlasting as the moon.
Hello everybody, welcome back. So, when I write this video, I would have played Ineffa for a few hours, some on stream, some off stream, and naturally, I have some thoughts. Ineffa seems to be a little bit better than I thought she would be. As of right now, in the teams that I've played with her so far, she hasn't felt like some massively game-changing character, but I don't think there has been any point so far where I've felt like she isn't doing enough. So I kind of feel like she's actually pretty solid. Now, we have had some leaks on what's coming in Nordcry, and without spoiling too much, it shouldn't be a huge surprise that she's probably going to have some much more interesting options very, very soon. But for now, with what I have on her, it does seem to be doing the trick for the most part. Now, let's talk about the biggest thing that is of course coming with her right now, which is the Lunar Charged damage. This does seem also quite alright. Now, we're not looking at, like, let's say an aggravate situation where some of a character's hits suddenly do 3 times the damage. Ooh, that's amazing, right? Instead, it does seem like with the highly invested characters that I have and like to play, we are looking at, let's say, 30k Lunar Charge hits on the low end, or potentially even just a little bit under 50k Lunar Charge hits on the high end. The weirdest thing that I noticed is that seemingly having her affected by an attack buffer like Yansan, Sara, Bennett, these can actually make a pretty big difference in that Lunar Charge damage. But after some testing, it does actually turn out that the number I was seeing was actually the number that was part of her A1 passive. So when I was seeing 60k Lunar Charges, 70k Lunar Charges from a Zevjev run, yeah, that's not actually normal Lunar Charge damage. That was her A1 passive Lunar Charge damage. The thing is, both Lunar Charge damage, the regular version, and her A1 passive, they both have the same text style, and normally they do some seemingly very similar damage, so I tend to have a hard time differentiating, especially in multi-target where no matter what I appear to only see the regular Lunar Charge damage for some reason. I don't know if I'm just tripping balls at that point, but yeah, that's kind of really hard to differentiate. Just know that it's there, and if you do decide to use an attack buffer, then you may have some bigger Lunar Charge hits, but that's exclusively because of her A1 passive, so it's actually talent Lunar Charge damage. Does that make sense? Now, going through the rest of her kit, first off, normal attacks, yeah, they're not that great. They do have a decent animation set though, so that's kind of nice. Her skill does seem pretty good though. Now, I didn't realize that it actually had 100% uptime, or more than 100% uptime. The shield is also pretty alright. Nothing too amazing, and we're not looking at like Zhongli levels obviously, but it does still break from time to time, so you know, it's not perfect, but it is still there. Now, if I had a better tenacity set for her, this would probably make a huge difference, at least for the shield purposes in the grand scheme of things. I do want to also point out that her ult, even though it does have a shockingly high talent multiplier, yeah, it's actually pretty disappointing in terms of the damage that it's doing. I guess the reason why is that I don't tend to play with her in teams that can actually buff her as well. So, for example, teams with Sara, teams with Yansan, for example. Yeah, I don't seem to do that all that much. So, because of that, her ult is kind of getting shafted in that way. But the A4 passive that comes from her ult is still pretty nice. So, there are, of course, going to be some teammates and, of course, one weapon option that I think is actually pretty damn good in this regard. And I'm, of course, running some 140-ish EM for the entire team with the build that I currently have on her whenever I use her ult, so that is a pretty nice bonus for everyone. Now let's just go through the teammates that I mentioned on Wednesday's video right before the update real quick. The Neuvillette team does in fact welcome Ineffa. Even with the massive crit values on this team, I am still seeing some very normal amounts of Lunar Charge DPS, so it's not, you know, so outlandish that all of a sudden, you know, a Neuvillette team could potentially see the higher ends of it. That being said though, like, having Shilden on the team does mean I can pop Ineffa's ult on the regular, which does mean I get to use Ineffa's A4 passive and make sure that it's always active, even though it already has 100% uptime anyway. But still, it is something that I'm finding to be pretty cool in the grand scheme of things. Now, the Sethos team does actually seem to work surprisingly well. I may have underestimated how good the EM buff from Ineffa is. Like, look, basically, Sethos in a team like this is actually still doing somewhere between 30-50k charge attacks, which is actually surprisingly quite alright. Nothing compared to the usual 50 to 80k charge attacks in Aggravate, for example. But still, I was kind of expecting his charge attack damage to be a lot worse than that. So I guess it's kind of working in the grand scheme of things. And of course, Miko and Ineffa are working pretty much as well as I expected. If you have some of the other teammates that are really good with them, for example, C2 Shilinen, then of course, obviously they do even better. But this is kind of why I've built Ineffa for DPS, so that if we need an off-field Hydro character who also preferably can heal, well then suddenly I actually have started playing with Kokomi a fair bit more lately, because we don't have that many off-field Hydro characters that can heal, actually, turns out. So that's actually pretty good. I guess anyone who has Shigvin and has built Shigvin for DPS could potentially use her instead. So yeah, there's a couple of options available. At least by having Ineffa built for DPS, Kokomi on the team doesn't immediately gimp the Lunar Charge damage, because the Sucrose that I'm running on the team obviously has no crit. It's just oops all EM. She's kind of going to gimp the Lunar Charge damage if she's the other character that has like the most amount of Lunar Charge damage, I guess, because it's not a lot, and then it's even half of that that's only being applied to the next Lunar Charge hit. There's also an archetype that has been working surprisingly well. That's OverVape teams. Now, I actually sort of somehow forgot that the EM buff that comes from Ineffa, it's not just for Electro and Hydra characters, so it's not like some sort of Nilou, Chevreuse kind of situation. No, it actually works for the Pyro DPSs as well. So in an OverVape team, yeah, Ineffa is kind of like a pseudo Sucrose at that point. Now, not as great as Sucrose, if you've built her for attack crit damage, for example, which is what I've done. But still, it's something that's there, and it has a very, very high uptime, unlike Sucrose, who only has 8-second uptime, so you know, take that for what you will. So in a team like this, we now of course have Lunar Charge damage, which is kind of fat. We have Vape damage, and then of course we also have some Overload damage. Overloads did get buffed, by the way, recently, so I guess I'm doing a bit more damage with them now. That's kind of nice. I am still seeing like 13k Overloads with my Mavuika running an Attack Sand, 14k if she's running an EM Sand. By the way, Attack Sand does seem to be better than EM Sand in this kind of team, because number one, it's Ineffa, not Iansan, and then number two, the Attack Sand does result in a lot more Mavuika damage than the EM Sand. Obviously, you get bigger Overloads, but I don't think Overloads are going to be contributing that much in a team like this. And obviously, this variant of a Mavuika Vape team is not going to be outperforming the Mavuika Vape, and it certainly won't be outperforming Melt Mavuika DPS anytime soon. But I just think it's a little bit interesting. Now, on the plus side, I don't need to delay Mavuika's ult slightly in order to get a Symphonist buff, for example, but on the downside, I can't turn off Brigitte, which means I haven't really found a way to avoid second rotation memes when I'm trying to get Shilden's buff on Mavuika again, because it's no longer Farina's Hydro that's preventing an underlying Pyro aura. It's Brigitte and Ineffa's underlying Electro auras, or I guess Electro app, that is basically killing that idea. So it's a bit scuffed. When it comes to building Ineffa, right now I don't have any particularly great options available. When it comes to the weapons, I've kind of ummed and ahed between a couple of 4-star weapons. Battle of the Fjords I tried. It's actually pretty good. Missive Wind Spear I've also tried. It's actually pretty good, but the Missive Windspear buff, my understanding, doesn't actually work off-field, which is kind of cringe. I have also started to enjoy Kitain Cross Spear for that off-field energy generation. 24 energy per rotation is actually kind of huge with a 60 cost burst. Now, I did mention that I have just a little shy of 150 ER. That's mostly wasted. So, yeah, that's kind of that. Now, I'm also kind of screwed when it comes to artifacts because the default build in the Genshin system as they've currently suggested right now for some reason is 2-piece attack, 2-piece EM. That is a very whatever the hell kind of artifact set, but when I built that, I actually have some pretty respectable artifact stats. 80.8, 162.7 on the crit stat, 2.3k attack, 211 EM. There's also, like I mentioned, 146 ER. So with a build like this, I could still potentially use a weapon that isn't Kitain Cross Spear and be fine for the most part. I am still trying to set up a tenacity build, but it's got some devastatingly uninteresting pieces. So at the end of the day, I'm running with 67.2, 163.5 on the crit stats. As you can see, significantly worse. 2.2k attack, 129 EM. There will be a bit more attack though for both Ineffa and of course the rest of the team because it's the tenacity set bonus. The shield strength is also very, very nice as well, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. So yeah, for what it's worth, running my current sort of disastrous ToTM build on Ineffa does seem to result in ever so slightly more DPS than the sort of basic bitch build. And I'm judging that by clearing chamber 1-1 seemingly 2 seconds faster. Whereas with the super duper basic build on a Lunar Taser team, like with Miko and Sucrose and whatnot, I seem to have basically the same DPS, and I'm judging that by clearing the Skirk artifact domain about as quickly. So maybe if I do end up getting a great tenacity build one day, that will be an overwhelmingly better choice. So I guess for now, if you're desperate, yeah, 2-piece is fine. Especially if you have a particularly good artifact stats on it. Or I guess I'll just have to wait until the non-cry artifact set comes out and then I'll just go from there. In the meantime though, I am actually strongboxing a tenacity build just to see if I can actually make something work. One thing I also want to point out is that it seems like Lunar Charge teams with my level 80 actually somewhat built Ineffa has pretty much the same AoE DPS as an Electro Charge team with a level 70 artifacted but not talent leveled Autodon. So I won't be saying that Lunar Charge is necessarily Electro Charge power creep. It probably isn't. It might just be like a side grade at the end of the day, but at least it's a noticeable damage hit as opposed to whatever the hell is going on in these old Taser teams where it's just a bunch of purple numbers and you don't know what's what. Look, let's just turn the question back onto you guys now. Let me know how you feel about Ineffa in the comments below. What teams have you been enjoying? What builds have got you going? And what are you doing that seems to do the trick? Let me know in the comments. Also, I've currently left her at level 80. I'm pretty sure Lunar Charge is not one of those reactions where jumping her to level 90 is a huge increase like how it is for Spread, Aggravate, possibly Overload and stuff like that. But let me know in the comments if you believe it is actually a big enough upgrade where going to level 90 is actually worth it. Because if it is, I got to get to farming again. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.